Hi, this is Trent from Speak2Read, and one of the things that irks me a little bit is the term learning disability. And we've moved away from the diagnosis of dyslexia, and more often you're going to see specific learning disorder, which is a little bit better than learning disability. But, and the reason it bugs me is because when I do my assessments, I almost always find that there is an underlying language disorder that's impacting reading, writing, and spelling. So reading and writing and spelling are just ways of getting our sounds and words and sentences down on paper or pulling the meaning off of the paper. So reading, writing, and spelling are language-based tasks. So it makes sense that there would be a language disorder that's underlying. Sometimes when we assess these kids and we slap them with the label of learning disability, it makes it sound like there's a problem in learning. But when we look at it, often these kids have average scores across a lot of other skills. They can learn how to ride a bike, they can learn to do math, they can learn to retain content for things like science, they can learn new vocabulary. There really isn't actually a problem in learning, there's a problem in processing language. So a language processing disorder is a better diagnosis when kids are having trouble with reading, writing, and spelling than learning disability. Now sometimes they come out from these assessments with lower cognitive scores, and there is impact on learning other things. And so sometimes we do see that there is a learning disability generally, and sometimes there's things like difficulties with working memory, and that shows up more during writing. So sometimes we see a specific learning disability associated with writing, and sometimes it's an apt label, sometimes it fits, but a lot of the times we just say, oh, it's a learning disability, so we don't really expect them to learn how to read, write, and spell, so we're gonna just put a bunch of accommodations in place, we're gonna adapt instruction. When, again, it's like, do they actually have problems with learning, or do they actually just need some instruction to learn the underlying foundational skills training in the underlying sound and language processing that's going to make the difference? So it's just the kind of thing that I bump up against a lot, and I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I sort of start to steer my own speaking, that this is a problem with language processing at some level. Sometimes the oral language is fine, but the written language is impacted. So then the problem is in the code, the symbol system, for how oral language interacts with written language. And then we need to do some work on orthographic patterns and coding. But again, it's not a problem learning, it's just a problem with that specific part of language processing. So I like to do my full assessment with kids, and I like to figure out what's going on in the language profile, the whole language profile at all levels of processing. Once we have those scores, then we have the whole picture, we know what we're talking about, and we can put an accurate label on, and more importantly, then we can make an accurate therapy plan or intervention plan, one that's based on skills and skill training. All right, again, I'm Trent from Speak2Read. A lot of this stuff is over on my blog at my website at speak2read.ca. I encourage you to pop over there and have a look. And if you have any questions or concerns about how your child is speaking, learning, reading, writing, spelling, I encourage you to just get in touch. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about, and it's often quite informative. All right, take care. Talk soon.